Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Thanks for tuning in. Got another great show lined up for you this week. I know you'll think so after viewing it. James Morris is going to join us. The former Hawkeye great linebacker will be joining us, as well as James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback. And then we'll close out the show with our usual Hawkeye insider, David Eickholt. Got a lot to talk about with Hawkeye football, also Hawkeye wrestling update for the women. So that upcoming too. But as you see on the screen today, I've got Brad and Darcy Schaefer joining us with Tater Tough, as you see the wonderful shirt Darcy has on. Craig and Stacy Schrader taking this week out planned to bring their friends, the Schaefers, here. So Brad, Darcy, thanks for joining us. How's everything going?
Great. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
It's truly my pleasure. So we're going to go to the website, DaveO'HaraSports.com, and talk to the Schaefers about their story with Tate and Tater Tough. So we'll be back with more Hawkeye and James Morris in just a few moments. And as you can see on the screen, I've located my buddy James Morris, former Hawkeye linebacker, former All-Big Ten linebacker. James and I were talking off the air a little bit in some obscure sources, maybe even a former All-American linebacker. But you see all of James's information at the bottom of the screen. He went through a bit of a career change. He went through a major life change soon upcoming as he's smiling there, and I'll have him update us on all of that. But you know, we talk Hawkeye offense a lot on this show with James Vandenberg. We also talk special teams the last couple of weeks with Keith Duncan. We're going to have Parker Hesse on in a couple of weeks. His off week with the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to be going to London this Sunday to play with the Falcons. So we got a lot going on in the show. Again, Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, and we're going to catch up on all this. But first and foremost, James, thank you so much for joining us. You're a Solon, Iowa native, former Iowa Hawkeye. You come by it naturally. Thanks again, and how's everything going with you, my friend?
No complaints. Not a lot of sleep lately, as you alluded to. My wife and I welcomed the birth of our first daughter, baby girl, last week.
Congratulations, James.
Thank you. Yeah, we're pretty excited, over the moon, and definitely the hours feel like days and the weeks feel like months right now. But that's okay. We're soaking it up.
Well, awesome stuff. The fact that you were able to join us, and thank you for doing this again with all that going on. And you made a career change. So let's start there, and then we'll go to your Iowa career. We want to talk Jack Campbell. We want to talk Phil Parker. Heck, I even want to bring up Norm Parker when you were a younger pre-Hawk, and I want to get into all that. But let's talk about your career change as well, please.
I'm in the process of changing jobs. The last 4 years, I've been working with Principal Financial Group in Des Moines on the real estate investing team. And then an opportunity came up to take a position with Green State Credit Union doing commercial mortgage lending, principally based out of Des Moines here. So I'll start that in October. That's the new update for me. But got into finance after bouncing around the NFL for 3 years, and really wanted to stay in Iowa and do that. So that's kind of what I've been up to for the last, call it 4 or 5 years.
Now let's talk about that. You ended up getting your MBA, or you got your master's, or are you there?
Yeah, I did get an MBA actually
Awesome.
from Hawk fans. Close your ears right now. Indiana University. So I did that in the off season when I was playing in the NFL. So I'm technically a Hoosier. I've actually got a Hoosier mug in my cupboard upstairs right now. I drink out of it from time to time, but still Big Ten. Still Big Ten.
That's right. We'll just say MBA, and I won't say the school, so we'll leave it at that. But hey, I got to go here with you then. Let's get into it and talk about your experience in the NFL, and then we got to get to Norm Parker, Phil Parker, Jack Campbell, the Hawkeye defense. You had a conversation with Jack Campbell this summer. I want to get to all that, but let's talk about your career just for a little bit in the NFL. And gosh, you know, James, we did a piece on here a couple of weeks ago with our Hawkeye Insider with David Eickholt and Sean Bach, and you know, Iowa tied for 6th in the NFL with most guys in the NFL at 35. Then if you include practice squads and such, 35 plus. So let's talk about that, if you would, for us, please.
Yeah, it's a pretty healthy pipeline there. Obviously, Kirk and his staff do a great job of preparing people for the rigors of the NFL. I spent 3 years in the NFL. My rookie year with the Patriots, won a Super Bowl that year, and then the second year with the New York Giants doing special teams, and then the last year with the Dallas Cowboys. The story of my NFL career was really one of injuries. I was an undrafted free agent, failed my first physical, caught on in training camp my rookie year with the tryout, and then blew out my knee last preseason game. So I missed my whole rookie year. Second year, got some momentum playing special teams, got cut in a coaching change, and then made the Cowboys on a tryout and training camp, and then blew out my shoulder my third year. And so you're 3 years into it as an undrafted guy, and 2 out of 3 seasons you've missed the injury. I mean, you're never getting another tryout. Yeah. So it was probably shorter than I'd like, but still a really good experience, a ton of fun, and a lot of good memories.
So I have to ask the question, is that Super Bowl ring close by, or where do you have it?
I can't tell you. I'm in my house right now, and I can't give it away.
I'll leave it at that.
Lock and key.
Okay. Well, it's one of those government secret things. If you told me, you'd have to hurt me, and I don't want that. So
Exactly.
let's
I'll
not.
let me know ahead of time for the second appearance, and I'll see if I can,
There we
scratch
go.
my ear with some jewelry on or something
I
like
like, yeah, the subtlety. Yes, yes.
that. Yeah,
We had
exactly.
Tristan Wirfs hadn't gotten his ring when Tristan was on this show last spring, and he said, "Dave, trust me, when I come back, I'll be sure to make sure I scratch with my ring finger hand, and we'll let it go." But hey, let's do this. Let's talk about Jack Campbell. And again, I know Phil Parker was out of Iowa before you had gotten there, but you were being recruited, or excuse me, Norm Parker, and now Phil is there. And what a defense, Jack Campbell. I'm going to step out of the way and let you kind of fill in the blanks because when you got there and you played, what a defense that was. And now you see what Jack Campbell's doing, setting a Hawkeye record or equaling a Hawkeye record, 7 solos, 11 assisted, 18 total tackles. You played the the middle linebacker, just like Jack did. That's a full day's work.
Yeah, it's not easy to do in today's game where the mic is more center formation and so much of the ball gets distributed out to the sidelines when you play those spread teams, those teams with mobile quarterbacks. So kudos to him. That's hustling, and he was probably feeling it the next day. But days like that, they don't happen by accident. You got to be pretty talented and have a lot of drive and a lot of effort to put up those types of numbers.
And you being a recent Hawk, within the last handful of years, and James Vandenberg always tells me to be careful because I put a number on it and say 8 years ago, and he's like, "Oh, don't do that, Dave. Just say a handful of years ago." So you're around Vandenberg's time, but Ike Budker knew Jack Campbell. They're both Cedar Falls guys, a teammate of yours. Ike Budker back in the day, now with the Bills, and Ike's been on the show a couple times, but there's no bigger social media guy beating the drum for Jack Campbell than his fellow Cedar Falls Tiger and Ike Budker. But talk to me about the conversation you had with Jack Campbell this summer and just, again, thoughts on Jack Campbell and that Phil Parker D, please.
Jack and I didn't get into the weeds too much. Like I was saying earlier, we worked football camp for kids this summer, so we got to spend the morning together. Seemed like a nice kid, got a good head on his shoulders. Obviously, what I've heard from other folks in the program is that he's a good guy, a foundational Iowa football guy, and you're seeing it on the field. Certainly passes the eyeball test. He's got really strong measurables and obviously good instincts. So continue to look for him to have strong production this year and hopefully really build and grow and be a player for hopefully a long time.
Yeah,
So
I just
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a lot to go on yet. So let's go back to your playing days and Phil Parker and the defense and the legacy that Norm Parker brought with him before he had passed away, and God rest his soul. But any experiences with Norm, or that was so much before your time? And then, of course, talking about Phil. So you're kind of smiling there a little bit. So I'll step out of the way and let you do a little storytelling with Uncle James now, please.
Yeah, my experiences with Norm were always memorable, and I can tell you a lot of stories, many of them not safe for broadcasting.
I like that.
But unfortunately, when I played at Iowa, because he was dealing with some health issues at the time, I didn't actually get to spend a ton of time with him when he was the defensive coordinator. There was a period there where they had an interim defensive coordinator, and then he retired shortly thereafter. But Norm was old school, man. He was old school and he lived his life by simple maxims. Football is a tough game for tough people. We always used to say that 6 seconds of hell. But he always had a knack for breaking things down and making things simple when you're trying to understand sort of complicated subjects. And so I can remember him driving up in his golf cart, after I'd had, a horrible session and saying, "Hey, Morris, think about it like this," and things like that. So he was a character, definitely a legend of Iowa football, and is sorely missed.
Oh, absolutely. So your take on what Phil Parker has now done at the with the Iowa defense, and of course on social media, and you're smart like James Vandenberg, you're not on it. I have to be. But all last weekend was Steve Stricker with the Ryder Cup for president, and Phil Parker, Hawkeye D coordinator, as VP,
Yeah.
or flipping back and forth. But man, great players, great talent, a lot of upperclassmen, great leadership. But somebody has to stir that drink and coordinate it, and that's Phil Parker. Talk about that, please.
Yeah, he's done an excellent job. Phil was my D coordinator for a couple of years, and just seeing his evolution as a coach, even from my junior year, the first year he had him, to my senior year, and some of the things that we were doing different. Obviously, the foundation is the same. It's still 4-3 under front, quarters, 2 high shell, but they're able to rotate or introduce some different looks and provide a little bit more variety than maybe what they had, for the cycle before that. But listen, the proof is in the pudding. The statistics speak for themselves. I think when if you want to weight defensive production, points scored, points allowed, turnovers, and then weight all that by stars, recruiting stars. I mean, I
Hmm.
would imagine Iowa's ratio has got to be one of the highest in the country, and that has a lot to do with Phil's platform and what he's done with those guys. He's a great defensive coordinator, and that shows.
Yeah, and James, then you mix in the special teams with the rugby style punters, and previously Michael Sleep Dalton, and now with Torrey Taylor, and then the solid kicking game with previously Keith Duncan, who's been on the show the last couple of weeks, and then now with Caleb Shudak, who's a 6-year veteran of that program with kickoffs and now extra points and field goals. Boy, you got the three parts of the game going, looking pretty good, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you alluded to it. I don't think fans are talking a little bit more about it now because the punter right now is so good. But a guy like that who can change the field for you, and what he's able to do is he forces opposing offenses to not necessarily put together 5 or 8 play drives, but if he's pinning you back inside the 20 there every time, which he's
Yeah,
doing, now you're looking at 12, 13, 14 play drives. And the way Iowa's defense is built, that kind of plays in their hands because I mean, there's not a lot of NFL teams out there that can go 14 or 15 plays and not commit a penalty and not
yeah.
botch a snap and not have a drop on a third down. So over the course of a season, I mean, you talk about a guy like that who can flip the field. That's worth points, and it might be worth a game or two down the stretch.
Yeah, well stated. James, time goes so quick. We're going to have you back. We'll talk more the number 5 Iowa Hawkeyes, that big Penn State game upcoming. Next time, I told James Vandenberg we're going to have the two of you on the screen together, let you go at it a little bit with the offense, defense, quarterback, linebacker, but you guys are close.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah, see?
I've heard quarterbacks talk about defenses too, where they say, like, this is where the safety's going, all that stuff. So
yeah.
I'd love to do something like that at some
And
point.
the smile on your face was priceless. We're going to freeze frame that. That was awesome. So, James, great stuff out of you. Congratulations on being a new father to you and your wife, but also with a career change with your MBA now, working for Green State Credit Union, formerly of Principal Financial, former Hawkeye All Big Ten linebacker James Morris from Solon, Iowa. James, now in Des Moines. Thank you so much, my friend, and we'll catch up with you very soon when it works in your schedule, okay?
Sounds good, Dave.
Thank you very much. For James Morris, I'm Dave O'Hara, and Hawkeyed with me. We'll be back with more to close out the show with James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback, and then David Eickholt, Hawkeye Insider. Back with more in just a few moments.
In farming, everybody knows relationships drive the industry. And with Merschman Seeds, you've got a friend in the field. Hi, this is Joe Merschman. We're the friend that delivers with extraordinary speed. We're the friend that shares knowledge and innovation. We're the friend that cares about your yields and profits. And we just happen to have the most advanced seed technology in the industry. When you choose the best seed, you also get the best people. Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. As you can see on the screen, our buddy James Vandenberg, another James, who joins us each week as always. We call him James the quarterback, former Hawkeye quarterback. Thanks again to James Morris for joining us previously, the former Hawkeye linebacker. These two are good friends. Now, James, first and foremost, as always, thanks for joining us. Secondly, your former teammate as well, James Morris, and James Vandenberg here with RBC Wealth Management, and as we know, James Morris in the financial field as well. So, again, CorridorInvestmentGroup.com, you see all James's information on the bottom of the screen along with mine. So, James, I'm going to quote your quote that you said about as you raise your eyebrow here. I'm not going to get you in trouble. I already did that. I already told James Morris what you said. You said, I trust James Morris implicitly with my life, except when he has a golf club in his hands. Explain that to us, please.
There's some truth to that. And it's simple physics. You can't have that many muscles and swing a golf club coordinately. That's not even a word. Very coordinated? I don't know. Go. My dad bod serves really well for a golf swing. James's 10,000 push-up body does not serve very well for a golf swing.
I think that's well, but now he is a dad week into it now, so he may get that dad bod.
You're
But
right.
it's going to take a long time.
He's going to be softening up.
Well, let's do this. Speaking of softening up, hopefully the Hawkeyes are going to soften up Maryland. 2 4-0 teams. Again, we record this on Tuesday afternoons, but it airs on Friday nights on TV as well as online on Sunday. So we may be getting some fans right now, James, hopefully tuning in after a Hawkeye victory on FS1, tuning over to either Fox or CBS television, depending what market you live in. So hopefully we're talking about a Hawkeye victories
Wait,
preemptively.
is this show not on ESPN, Dave?
Not yet.
Not
Not yet. We're close. With your involvement, we're going to get there. So let's do this. Talk about the week of going into this game, even though, again, this will air as the game's going on or just ending. If you're Spencer Petras, and this is your role on this show as always, you got QB1 helmet on this week. You're going into a 4-0 Maryland team. Tua Tagovailoa's younger brother is quarterback there. They're having the big blackout tonight. Fans are going to be going crazy. A lot going on with Maryland. They lead the country in sacks. This could be an interesting game. So let's talk about what you're going through, preparation with your teammates. You're leading the offense instead of Spencer Petras. What's James Vandenberg going through this week?
Nothing different. I mean, literally nothing. Outside of the fact it's a Friday night game. So, I mean, Monday was different than a normal Monday. Tuesday is so you're getting a little bit of a sped up week, but it's so cliche. But it's another week in the Big Ten, and there's more hype around it. The atmosphere, Friday night blackout. All that'll be great. But as far as what would be going through Spencer's head or anybody else on the team is, this is week 5, and it's a good opponent. You're going to know that. They're going to be watching film of the guys getting all the sacks, so on and so forth. So big picture, nothing changes minutely. They'll be uniquely preparing for Maryland, but nothing earth-shattering.
Okay, so now we've got the offense clipping along. We're starting to incorporate the tight ends. Charlie Jones doing what Charlie Jones is doing. You as a quarterback have to appreciate the catch that Nico Reganey made, looking over this shoulder, back over this one. Good throw by Spencer, but he looked like Willie Mays out there, running by center field there.
Yeah, that's a really hard catch. That was a really good catch. There's no doubt about it. Good throw, good read, but the catch wins on that play.
Yeah, and you've got to love the fact what the offensive line is doing with the running game. Now, granted, against Colorado State, but they gave the Hawks a little bit more than everybody thought they were going to give them, a 24-14 victory. For the Hawks, we talked about, the way the polls have moved around the Hawkeyes, but they still stay at number 5 in the country. So I'm just curious on your thoughts. You got everything clipping along here. I'm going to ask you for a prediction again since you nailed it. You and I were close. We said 35-14 or 38-14. It was 24-14, Hawkeye victory. I'm going to ask you as you chuckle. Give me a score. Give me your thoughts. Well, this is really a good litmus test. Big Ten games the rest of the year now for the Hawkeyes until they get to the bowl. Give me a score, please.
Oh, you want an actual score?
Please.
Let's say 27-21 Hawks.
Ooh.
We were both off. Last week I thought was the offensive explosion coming. And if that interception doesn't happen, we probably do get to mid-30s or high 30s, but that was a good play. But no, this week, good game, good opponent. This will be a good win to go in there and get a win with how Maryland has it rolling. So it sounds like on both sides of the ball, we're going to have our hands a little full, but I'm perfectly fine with the polls moving around us.
Sure.
We've got plenty of runway to prove whatever we need to prove.
I was just going to say that to you, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I'm going to at least mention it. Penn State looming large next week. So as you say, that the polls are going to be what the polls are going to be. You win your games, you're going to be where you need to be. The Hawkeyes will be at the end of the year.
Yeah. We've got plenty of good opponents that ultimately the schedule and the record is going to dictate what happens. So if they want to keep shuffling people around now, great. Who cares?
Well, I tell you what, James, next time we have the two Jameses back, you and James Morris, we'll have you on a split screen together. Thank you for coordinating that with James Morris for me. And as always, thanks for joining me each week here. He is the former Hawkeye quarterback, James Vandenberg, RBC Wealth Management Group, CorridorInvestmentGroup.com. James, my friend, I look forward to catching up with you next week.
Have a good week, Dave.
I will. You do the same. Thanks, James. For James Vandenberg, this is Dave O'Hara with Hawkeyed, and I'll be back in just a moment with David Eickholt, the Hawkeye Insider. Back with more in just a few.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology or a seed company that's writing the book on it? Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Mershman Seeds has been treating soybeans for decades, long before it was commonplace. We're the leader in technology, introducing Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, with an added fungicide to help produce a faster, more even emergence every single time. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. As you can see on the screen, my buddy David Eickholt joining us, the Hawkeye Insider, HawkeyeInsider.com. You see all of David's information at the bottom of the screen along with mine. Do want to say, please again, go to DaveO'HaraSports.com. Check out the wonderful segment I did with Brad and Darcy Schaefer for Tater Tough. Here's these wonderful wristbands. They have hashtag Tater Tough or hashtag Nobody Better. Please go to their Facebook page for that. David, you had media day with the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yep.
Kirk Ferentz, players. You had some freshmen you talked to. We got some freshmen getting some things done with the Hawkeyes. Number 5 in the country. Playing Maryland tonight as this show airs, so hopefully the game is over and it's a win and you're tuned back in or whenever you watch this show. But David, we record this on Tuesday afternoons as always, so let's talk about it.
Well, first of all, Dave, I will say this about the Colorado State to kind of wind things up. They clearly watched the show because for the first half, they kind of did look like they hit Melrose Avenue for a little bit.
Yes.
But I will say Connor Colby met with the media for the first time today. Remember, true freshmen are not always allowed to, but that changed this year. And Colby just said, you know, he had Tim Polasek, the old offensive line coach, for 2 weeks. And then George Barnett came in. He said after the first couple one-on-one conversations with Barnett, he really went all in on him. He really trusted him. And his approach to coaching him and giving him the opportunities, he just loves the bond between that. So he's going to be a guy watching go forward. Kirk Ferentz also said he'll be in the top 6 or 7 probably the remainder of the season. And Keegan Johnson, who I don't even want to know how many words I've written about him in the offseason, but Keegan Johnson, his first career catch goes for 43 yards and a touchdown, follows that up with a 49-yard catch, 2 receptions, 92 yards and a touchdown, Dave, and only 11 snaps. I mean, this is a guy who I think can really turn things up in the Big Ten play, and with how clean he gets off the line in his release, he could be one of Iowa's best deep threats probably by the end of the season.
Let's not forget all Big Ten games from here on out.
Yep.
I think that's going to make Arlen Bruce, another freshman, make his play, bring it up with Keegan Johnson playing like that. As usual, I want to let you know, David and his cohort at 24/7 Sports or CBS Sports, Hawkeye Insider, Sean Bach and David Eickholt, wrote great pieces and information on the new Iowa women's wrestling program. So please stay tuned in weeks to come. We're going to have sound bites out of it, clips, and talk to Tom Brands. Got some information from Tom, so we're going to have a lot more information on the Iowa Hawkeye women's wrestling program. So David, great work by you and Sean, of course, as always. But let's get back to the business at hand here. Tua Tagovailoa's younger brother, quarterback at Maryland. Also a blackout, going to be big crowd, national TV, FS1. I do want to correct myself from earlier in the show where I said Maryland leads the nation in sacks. They're 5th in the nation, but lead the Big Ten in sacks. So there's going to be a little defense the Hawks are going to have to play. Yeah,
you know, you talk about Iowa's O-line being the biggest concern going forward. I mean, this is going to be a big test for them, and especially Iowa's got to get the running game going. I think Spencer Petras earned a lot of people's confidence, so to speak, with how much he completed his downfield passing. They had 5 receptions of over 20 yards or more. I believe went 4 of 6 on the really, really deep passes. And I thought his ball placement on those deep passes, Dave, was in the best of his career. So I think you look at that, and you got to look at, you know, really slowing down to his younger brother. They have one of the most elite passing offenses in the Big Ten, over 330 yards per game, but they are the second most receiving yards of a Power 5 duo for wide receivers in the country. So Riley Moss, Matt Hankins, Jack Kerner, and those guys, buckle up because they're going to be going downfield time and time again.
So David, anything from you closing out the last 20 seconds here?
You know, I will say, Dave, I'm still confident about this Iowa team going forward into this game. I think that them having a close-ish game against Colorado State is going to wake them up. And I think while everybody's looking outside about the Penn State-Iowa showdown, I think Iowa is full steam ahead with Maryland.
I would agree with that. Hopefully we talk about a Hawkeye victory next week. We both got the Hawkeyes winning.
I do. Yep.
Same here.
I got my 2 touchdowns, actually.
As does James Vandenberg. So a couple of touchdowns. There we go. So for David Eickholt, David, thanks again as always for joining us.
I appreciate you, Dave. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. I appreciate you as well. For David Eickholt, the Hawkeye Insider, and James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback, and James Morris, former Hawkeye linebacker, and also Brad and Darcy Schaefer for joining us here at Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, and to you, the viewers. Again, for the aforementioned guests, that's all from me. Thanks to all of you. As you can see, thanks again to our advertisers and sponsors with the rolling credits here. Please give them the attention and credit they deserve for supporting this show. Without them, we don't have a show. Also, thanks again to Rob and Abby from Homegrown Media for bringing this show to you on the air, and of course to you, the viewers. Again, for Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, that is all from me. Thanks to all of you.